Welcome to another episode of PIF Countdown. Today, we'll be looking at fire safety. Thanks to my friend DJ3 Electrical for providing the ads for this countdown. Let's begin.
Francis the Firefly. In the kingdom of the insects, all creatures have a special gift from Mother Nature. Some have been given the gift of flight, some the gift of super strength, and others the gift of beauty. So the insects, being a friendly and helpful bunch, agreed long ago that they would all work together and build a wonderful land where they could all live happily. They decided that the ants would build the houses, the busy bees would make lots of honey, and the spiders would spin silky silvery webs to decorate the land and make it look beautiful. Now, the fireflies were given a very special job to do. As you know, the insects love the nighttime. But because it's very dark, they find it hard to see where they're going. So it was agreed that the fireflies, with their glowing tail torches, would act as tiny rays of sunlight and brighten the evening sky so everyone else could see what they were doing. At the time of our story, Francis the Firefly was only young and not yet able to make her tail glow brightly like the older fireflies. She would practice all the time, flapping her wings and trying very, very hard, but still her tail only shone dimly. And this made her feel very sad. All the other insects told Francis that one day she'd be able to join in with the grown-ups, but Francis didn't want to wait. One evening, Francis was sitting on a twig, feeling very sorry for herself, when Cocky Roach appeared. Cocky was a very naughty young cockroach, always in trouble. He knew why Francis was upset and thought he would trick her into joining him in one of his rotten games.
"Come with me, Francis," he said. "I'll show you how to light up the night."
Francis couldn't resist. Cocky took Francis back to his hiding place and pulled back a leaf. There, to her surprise, was a box of matches.
"My mummy left these on the table at home last week and still hasn't noticed they're missing. With these, you can really burn brightly."
Francis had been told many times how dangerous matches could be, but Cocky had her under his spell. She wanted so much to be like the grown-up fireflies. She took a match from the box and with Cocky's help, lit it. The flame burned brightly and a flickering glow shone all around her. Delighted with her newly found torch, she took to the sky.
"Have fun, Francis,"
Cocky yelled.
"How grown up you look with your lovely torch."
And with that, Cocky ran to another hiding place where he could secretly watch his plan take shape. Up and up Francis flew. Brighter and brighter the match burned.
"Just wait till everyone sees what I can do,"
she thought. But she didn't notice the flame burning larger and larger until, just as she was above the center of the insect forest, it burnt her wings. The pain was so bad that Francis instantly dropped the match from her grasp and it fell to the ground. It landed on a pile of twigs that the ants had gathered, and of course they started to burn. It was only a matter of minutes before the whole forest was burning. All the good work that the insects had done was ruined. The houses were destroyed, the honey factory in cinders, and even worse, many insects were very badly burned. The next morning, when the fire had finally been put out, the insects held an emergency meeting. King Chrysalis, a very grand butterfly who ruled the insect kingdom, rose up to speak. Francis, her wings all black and burned, sat below, feeling very ashamed and still in a lot of pain. The king asked the insects to rebuild their land and make it beautiful again. It was decided that Francis had learned her lesson and that she should not be punished further. But she knew that it would be a long time before she'd be able to fly again. "I hope now," King Chrysalis said to Francis, "that you realize how dangerous fire can be." Indeed, she did. In time, Francis helped the rest of her friends to rebuild their kingdom. She was also given her own job to do. Every now and then, she would gather up all the younger insects and tell them her story. They would sit and listen to the tale and understand why they should never play with matches. And as for Cocky Roach, he was sent away from the insect kingdom forever, and even today can sometimes be found scuttling amongst the litter bins and cupboards in towns and villages, looking for something to eat. Remember, never play with matches.
Phew, that was a long one, wasn't it? Again, We're starting off relatively tame with this one. The animation and the story are cute, and I vaguely remember watching this at school. LWTs move on.
Last Christmas, I hung the little angels on the Christmas tree, and Stephen helped me. And then, Mum and Dad went out to a party, and Stephen and I were in bed. And then I woke up, and there was smoke, and Stephen was crying. And I ran and shouted for Mum, but she didn't come. And then Stephen stopped crying. That was last Christmas.
Fire can break out at any time. This Christmas, don't leave your children alone in the house.
That was a public information film.
This one is creepy. I don't know whether it's the childish music, the little girl's voice or the vintageness of the ad, but it definitely gives off an unnerving atmosphere. And then we get that was a public information film at the end, which adds to the creep factor slightly. Moving on.
Once upon a time there was a dolly called Matilda. She was afraid of the dark. So the grown-ups put a nightlight in the bedroom. One night, Matilda thought she could smell something funny. It all happened so quickly. "Help! Help!" cried Matilda. Sadly, this is where the story ends.
That poor dolly. This advert succeeds in making you feel sorry for a doll of all things. It also has a slightly unnerving atmosphere. That's about all I have to say on this one. Next.
You'd think you'd wake in a house fire, wouldn't you? But just 2 to 3 breaths of toxic smoke and you're unconscious. Your lungs fill up, just like drowning. Don't drown in toxic smoke. Test your smoke alarm weekly.
This ad is creepy because it succeeds in making you feel like you're drowning. You can almost feel yourself breathing in the smoke as it fills the room. All I have to say, really. Next.
Last year in England, 15 children died in house fires. Children like yours. So parents, I'd like you to make a promise. Repeat after me. I swear on my child's life to test my smoke alarm on clock change day. To give my family the best chance of surviving a house fire. You did promise, didn't you? Because you can't turn back time.
This ad is more upsetting than scary. You can feel your heart breaking as you look into the little boy's eyes. I hope all you parents out there made that promise. You did promise, didn't you? Moving on.
That last cigarette. You know you shouldn't. You've been cutting down, but it's been an awful day. Don't. Because on your own, maybe a little tired. That's when it happens.
Ready?
that last smoke could be your last.
That was a public information film.
You can tell this one is old. I don't think anyone would make an ad today saying it's okay to smoke. The vintageness is what gives this ad its creep factor. That and the guy shouting at the end. Next.
Nancy? Jimmy?
Please keep matches away from children.
This is quite possibly the most famous fire safety ad of all time. There's something very unsettling about an old, empty, burnt-out house. And again, the vintageness of this ad adds to the creep factor. I know I've said that a lot in this video. Next one.
On George and Betty's night of romance, things got a bit too hot to handle.
Old electric blankets. You know, I've never seen an L-Turk blanket before. I guess this is why. Poor George and Betty. Moving on.
Make your plan. Get out alive.
The creep factor in this one comes from feeling these people's desperation. Like the drowning one, you can almost feel yourself breathing in the smoke. Let's move on to number 1.
Living room overloaded socket! Oh, boy, come on, something. Matches, come on, go for the matches, darling. Daddy put them there for you. Come on. Oh, Betsy, you put them out of reach. That's why it's too full and the heat's too high. Don't. Something. Come on. Oh, the heat is too close to the curtain. Behind the door. Look what you've done. Bye-bye, house.
Don't give fire a chance.
This ad featured in my original Scary Ads countdown, and it still gives me the chills. The woman's voice and the trippy background noise are just demonic. I'm glad I never saw this on TV, or it would have given me nightmares for sure. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of PIF Countdown. See you next time.